Hi, this is Majinani, and here's our video doing a comparison between the Fear Itself and Flashpoint series. Now that this is finished, I can finally do this one video that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Now, just as a quick overview, they're both, the big summer push events. They put, some of their top teams on there. You have Jeff Johns and Andy Kubert. And in this one you had Fraction and MMN, and they're both promising big changes. The world will never be the same once you get done with this miniseries, and this was their big push to generate as much revenue as they possibly can during the summer months. Now, Fear Itself is 7 issues long, while Flashpoint is 5. Now, with Fear Itself, the basic premise of this was Odin's brother, came back, and he had these hammers. The hammers went to the Worthy, and the Worthy basically started rampaging, causing fear. And for the most part, they did a good job in the sense of showing fear. But the problem was, I think people misunderstood fear for bad characterization. Like for an example, they had a couple times where the superheroes just gave up. There's the battle ahead, Bucky's dead, Thor's down, and they just kind of stopped. Spider-Man goes running back home, to Aunt May. But the thing is, I don't think that was bad characterization. What it was the fear effect. Because if you noticed during other issues, especially during the tie-ins, you had people turning on the heroes, you had people fighting amongst each other, you had hopelessness, fear of the future, people were losing their homes, and then so they did some of that stuff. So eventually the fear was so great, it eventually affected some of the heroes. But unfortunately, I don't think they wrote that part in well enough. So anyways, from there was a big prophecy that Thor was going to die fighting the brother, and earth-shattering conclusion type thing. With Flashpoint, you had, basically this was the big lead up to the New 52, where Flash is basically figures out, hey, there's something not right in the universe, things aren't the way it's supposed to be. Zoom's involved, Zoom's been changing everything, and the resolution to this is basically the New 52. So let's take a look at them. I thought with Flashpoint, the way Flashpoint started, I don't think it was anything special. If you've read many of the other Crisis books, or any type of time traveling, or dimensional travel, where there's the 52 worlds, that's basically what we were treated with. So, for me at least, there wasn't anything new. It was just, okay, Flash goes somewhere else, Superman isn't Superman, he's really looking like somebody else, Batman isn't Batman, etc., etc. So, there was no surprises for that. Now, with Fear Itself started with more of a bang, because you had the hammers going to the Worthy. Now, if you were not paying attention, then you were shocked as to who the Worthy were. You had heroes and villains getting the hammers, and you had this big build-up of massive destruction. So I kind of gravitated towards that a little bit more. Now, with the tie-ins, I think the tie-ins to Fear Itself failed as a whole. I think there were some tie-ins that were maybe stronger than others, but there were other tie-ins that confused, I don't want to say confused me, but threw the pacing off of the story a lot. Especially when issues came out ahead of the key story. So what would happen is you're reading about, let's say, Tony Stark creating weapons, and then you find out a little bit too much before this actually comes out. Or when the Thing rampaged and destroyed Avengers Tower, you saw that same battle multiple times through different eyes. And same with Juggernaut. It's like, how many times are we going to be dealing with Juggernaut? Juggernaut 1 minute's fighting the Thunderbolts, the very next minute he's fighting the X-Men. And it was just like, come on. I mean, I understand that there's a progression of time where Juggernaut's moving, but it's like, I wanted something a little bit more from some of those tie-ins. I think out of all of these tie-ins, the only one that actually had something, I don't want to say interesting, but something that was relevant was the Hulk versus Dracula, because in that one, Banner, or the Hulk, changed into Banner, then he wasn't worthy anymore, and he lost the spell effects of the hammer. So he wasn't present during the final battle, which probably could have changed the tide of battle. Now, you do see the Hulk fighting Dracula in this issue, but it's like a small panel. In Flashpoint, I thought the Flashpoint tie-ins were infinitely more stronger. And now I'm going to preface this, but I didn't read all of the tie-ins for both of these books. I did read more Fear Itself ones. The only reason why I say Flashpoint tie-ins were stronger is because they were their own self-contained story. For an example, you had a Batman story, which is amazing. It was basically a 3-issue miniseries that was just between Batman and the Joker, and it had no direct effect to this issue. There was a Superman tie-in, there was like a Lois Lane tie-in, and then basically what it did was it just gave you flavor for that character, gave you an idea of what their world was like, without having to worry about how does that 3-issue miniseries fit into this issue, the series. And that's why I think it's stronger, because you didn't have to read them all. You could pick and choose whatever you thought was interesting, and some of these kind of gave you an introduction to what was to come in the New 52, like, for example, the Frankenstein book. That miniseries introduced you to Frankenstein for the New 52 in the event that you weren't reading, like, the Grant Morrison, the Seven Warriors, or whatever that thing was called, way back when. So I thought that was much, much better. The ending. Now, I think Flashpoint's ending kind of fell flat, but it did what it needed to do. It played it safe. Now, I know there's probably going to be some people who might disagree with me, but the thing with Flashpoint is the Flashpoint wasn't necessarily... The ending to Flashpoint didn't have to be the most earth-shattering. The earth-shattering event happened after Flashpoint, when they did the relaunch, when you saw the new universe. So all they had to do with this issue, or this series, was basically just get you to that point where it introduced you to that new world. And so they didn't have to do anything special. And that's why I said it fell flat. It did exactly what it needed to do. If you were thinking that, if you're looking for something more earth-shattering, you weren't really going to get it. You had a nice little battle at the end. You had a nice touching moment between the Flash and Batman when the Flash gives Batman a letter. But other than that, I mean, there wasn't much to it, because the discovery and everything that was to come is in that very next month. So that's why I think it did what it needed to do. It didn't challenge you. It didn't do anything special. But it ended it in such a way where it transitioned you. Fear Itself ended with a big bang, because all this is just a big fight. You have Thor fighting, the gigantic snake, which is Odin's brother, the serpent. You have Captain America standing, facing off against, unbelievable odds. You have him grabbing Thor's hammer, going Avengers Assemble. This is what we wanted to see. This is exactly what we needed to see. And for those of you who say this is impossible, it is possible, because Captain America has picked up Thor's hammer in the past. He's probably one of the only few people that can do it, besides Thor. You had great splash pages. You had, the weapons that Tony made, and it was just battle, 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 battle. Now this actually does have the most change. And by the change, actually, let me rephrase my statement. There's a lot of change, but there's a lot that's going to remain the same. The change meaning you had Bucky dying, which is he'll probably come back eventually. You have Thor dying, which you know he's going to have to come back because of the Avenger movie, and then you have the second Thor movie. You also have the Asgardians now on Earth, and they're stuck here. Odin sealed off Asgard, so they're stuck. So those are going to be some changes. Now, I want to verify what's going to happen in the few upcoming issues of Iron Man, but it looks like Iron Man, Tony, is going to bring some of those dwarves down, and so that might also be a change in his direction. You have Avenger Tower destroyed. You have much of New York and other parts of the country just in ruin. So those were changes. But we all know what's going to happen is in the next coming months, the cities are going to be built back up again. It's going to be business as usual. People aren't going to really remember. The story for Fear itself is going to continue on because you have the Fearless, you have Battle Scars, and you have. It's just going to go on and on because the Asgardian hammers are still on Earth, and Valkyrie's going. It's my job to collect them. You can't have them here. And Cap's like, no, they're safe. Go about your business. Don't worry about it. So it's going to have that kind of effect. But I think I can easily see where there's going to be a bunch of people who are just going to say, this ending, they may not feel that it's satisfactory enough because there isn't enough change. There's a lot of little things, but they keep promising these bigger than life changes, and I think a lot of times people have their own self idea of what they want, and Marvel or DC can never meet those whatever they have in their minds of what's going to happen. Also, at the very end, there's a glimmer of hope because you have the families getting back together and helping each other out again. Which, if you remember, I said in the beginning of Fear itself, the families were all separating. They were leaving each other. They weren't looking out for each other. So there is that theme, and they finally closed the door on that theme. So I enjoyed the ending to this book a lot better. Now, I know I touched about this earlier with the lasting changes. This is probably the one that's going to have the most lasting change overall because of the New 52. DC's not going to go back to the old universe anytime soon. They're going to stay with New 52, and if anything, they'll fine-tune it here and there to meet demands. Or, if they realize they made a mistake, they're going to change it. And if you notice, they've already made a change in the sense of Superman is now going back 5 years in time, so now it takes place at the same time as Action Comics. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to do little things like that. They're going to add new characters. Like they have the Huntress miniseries. There's going to be the Ray miniseries coming out. So they'll do things like that. My guess is we'll eventually see a JSA at some point in time. But that's probably not going to come down. They're probably going to make a special event for that. Fear itself, you just had some character death, and that's not really lasting. But anyways, I think for the most part, I guess you can say this is your standard Marvel summer blockbuster. The way they, it follows the same exact formula. I think a lot of the middle of Fear itself was just horrible. It was painful to read because basically what happens is it built up a little bit quickly, and then it slowed because it's got all these side stories, and they give you piece at a time, and you're like, come on, can you please just get to move it on? And then the end just, it's like basically a door closing on you as fast as it can, and you've got to get through that door as fast as possible. And that's how this ends. Flashpoint had a very good pacing throughout the whole entire story. It kept feeding you just enough to keep you going, and then it ended with a boom. flash, bang type thing. So I think overall, Flash Job just did a better job at pacing, kept your interest going, and because you always were curious to know what is different, what's gonna happen. So overall, what do I think of these two books? Like I've mentioned before, I think Flashpoint played it safe, and I think it had overall the hardest job for a summer blockbuster. I'm glad it was only 5 issues. They didn't drag it out longer than they needed to. But I think at times, I don't know, at times I wonder why they did the direction that they did. But because I think they were building the war between the Amazons and the Atlanteans, that's what just basically sped everything up and, basically went with a bang type thing. But I wonder what else they could have done to maybe, I don't want to say add more flavor to it, but maybe just slow it down just enough so this way they could have drew you in just a little bit more. I think there's probably opportunities that they could have done to make overall this a much stronger title. But I think if you look at the overall goal, this accomplished its goal a lot more. Overall, like I said, Fear Itself is, I don't know, it's basically, I guess you can say with Fear Itself, for me, if you look at everything as a whole, is just imagine you have a bag of apples, and the room is dark, and you reach in there, and you just grab an apple at random. Maybe that apple is brown on the inside, and maybe that apple is nice and juicy. You don't know, because when you grabbed it, you didn't notice it. So that's what Fear Itself is like. Some things were really good and tasty. Other things, man, you just looked at that thing and go, why the hell am I reading this? And unfortunately, that's the problem with Marvel and their big push books. I think that they don't do a good enough job from start to finish. I think a lot of these things, they look at it in terms of sales. They go, these 3 titles aren't selling very well. We need to put them. We need to tie these 3 books in there to help boost sales. We need to have X-Men, Iron Man. We need to have Avengers. We need to have this, that, all of that. Doesn't matter if we can tell a good enough story about it. We'll just wrap them up in there and spew them out because we know all of the sales are going to go up. If we can have 10, why not have 15 different miniseries? And that's the general feeling I get with Marvel. One thing I wish they would do is, with the summer blockbuster, I wish they wouldn't do it every summer. And I understand why they do it, and that's an entirely different debate. But what I wish they would do is say, okay, you have this book ends now, so you have November, December, and let's say you have November, December, January to just calm things down again. Get everything settled, and then back in the groove again. And then spend the rest of the year building up their characters, throwing out their stories, and maybe towards the end of the year, introduce something dangerous. Something that's right around the corner that's going to happen. And then slowly build it up. And the trick is, I'm not asking you to devote pages for it. Do old Marvel style, where you see a panel here, a page there, and maybe there's something in Spider-Man, maybe something happens in Captain America, something happens in Hulk, something like that would generate so much internet chatter. Like, just to give you an example, when DC did their relaunch with the #1s, they have a woman in red appearing in every single issue. That generates people talking because they're like, oh my god, there's a woman in red, she's in every single issue, where is she? And I think that's what Marvel needs to do. They need to do something like that, plant little seeds. And, maybe you only see half of it, half of the little teasers. That's fine, because you understand that something's coming. And then half the fun then is to buy the stupid books, all of the books, and find out where these pages are, And then, as you build it up, hit summer, boom, here's the big series. That, I think, it would be a much more effective way of doing a Marvel style story, summer event. Because, like, just imagine the Secret Invasion built up like that, a lot slower. Like, they kind of already did that a little bit with the Avengers, because in the Avenger title they had that, and then they had who's a Skrull, who's not a Skrull, but build it up a little bit better. Just build it up a little bit better over time. Maybe show somebody getting kidnapped, but don't know who it is because it's in the shadows. Things like that. And I think it would have been a much stronger title. And of course, at the end of Secret Invasion, maybe not everybody was found out. There's sleeper agents still in there. Something like that. But anyways, that's off another topic altogether. So anyways, that's my general overview of these two books. Generally, I liked Fear Itself more than Flashpoint, but I think Flashpoint was a better constructed story. Fear Itself was just more action, and that's what I really wanted. I wanted a smash book, and I got my smash. So, if you have any comments or questions, let me know. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Which was better, in your opinion, Fear Itself or Flashpoint? I'll have more reviews up later, so until next time.